They actually put, I don't think that, I think it must have been who put in the new windows.
Well, it's not on right now.
Is it on?
It's usually turned off and on. I feel like I need to keep staying warmed up. My house can be very cold. I'm on a slab. Floors. And I'm in heat pump. Yeah, we don't want.
Good morning. My name is Brian Dustin. Our service today is Reverend Lori Whittemore. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Saco and Biddeford. We also want to welcome those joining us on YouTube and encourage you to have a candle or chalice to light when we light ours here in a few moments. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, whomever you love, we are glad you are here with us today. The theme for the month of February is love. We invite you to carry that theme with you as you are with us today and into your daily life when you leave here today. We strive to be a green sanctuary. It gives roots and wings to our vision of a world where all people build toward a sustainable future and make reverence, gratitude, and care for the living earth central to our lives. We want to acknowledge that our building sits on the land of the Wabanaki Confederation, which includes the Abenaki, Maliseet, Micmac, Passamaquoddy, and Penobscot nations. We invite you to take home the order of service for information and announcements, or you may leave it for recycling as you exit the sanctuary. Our current COVID guidelines are on the back page. There will be a social hour in the parish hall after the service. Please join us. Please join together as we light our chalice. The words are in your order of service. This is our sacred promise to gather together in peace, to seek truth in love, to serve human need, so that all shall grow in harmony with the divine.
Good morning. For this one moment, know only that you are loved, that you are safe and whole and loved. Know that you belong here, here among us, here upon the earth, in your body, however tired or broken you may feel, your heart may be. Whatever fear, disappointment, anger you carry, for this hour, know that you are not alone. Feel the presence of others surrounding you, breathing beside you and with you, discovering together the way our voices rise and fall as we sing. In harmony, in hope, claim here a resilient freedom, the choice for love, for light, to live with joy and gratitude and praise. As a form of resistance, already we are organizing. Come, let us worship together. And now please rise and join me as you're able to sing hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Before you sit, now is the time in our service where you turn and greet your neighbors.
Hello to everyone. Hello. Good morning. Look at all these faces.
This is a time in our service when we invite people to share what is in their hearts, whether it is a great joy or a deep sorrow. It is not a time for announcements or political statements. If you wish, please come forward to light a candle. Tell us your name if you'd like, and share your joy or concern with us if you choose to do so. Please hold the mic straight in front of you, parallel to the floor, and speak clearly into the mic so that you can be heard through the sound system.
My name is Randa, she, her, hers. I have a great joy. Yesterday, a couple of us were able to attend a cheer contest in Biddeford with our friend, the daughter of our friend Gladys. Some of you remember him and struggles that he and his family were having here in Biddeford 4 years ago, but he's happily married and the kids have a mom and they're so integrated and happy and so successful, and it was just a joy to be involved and to see them thriving.
Get a fight.
Duke it out. Hi, I'm Lori, and I have prayer requests. People may be aware of, there was a young man, Riley Tully, that was in a significant car accident this past week, and I remember him as this little first and second grader in class with my daughter, so prayers for him and his family, greatly appreciated. And so excited, people have known me for a while, know that my daughter has really challenged with learning, and I asked her this past week, do you feel like, you used to say, oh, I'm stupid, I can't learn. And she said, no, Mom, I'm at this new school. Did you see the math I'm doing? I can learn. And it's the first time in her life that she feels successful, and it's just incredible.
Lovely.
Good morning, I'm Ellie. I lit 2 candles this morning. One is for our friend Janine Wilson and her struggle with cancer, and her struggle is not the right word, but anyway, just think of Janine. And she really wants to sing with the choir, but she's ice fishing today. Yeah, go figure. So anyway, our prayers go up for Janine. The other candle I lit this morning is for somebody I know whose son died from suicide 2 years ago on Mother's Day. And over the past month, this person has carried her mom through hospice, and her mom passed away a couple weeks ago. And so it's just been a real struggle for her. Mother's Day has been awful for, the last 2 years, and now this year will be her first year without her mom, but just thinking a lot about her.
Good morning, I'm Matt Gerken. My joy today is to see all these faces. There's so many people here today. We ran out of programs, I don't know, orders of service. I don't know if you noticed that. And to have the choir back, welcome back Ellie. And I'm just thrilled to have the life that we have as a family. My wife and I and our children and grandchildren. And it's just, it's hard to express how important that joy of family means to all of us. So, thank you.
As I light one last candle for the joys and sorrows left unspoken, let us take a moment to hold what we have heard in our hearts. Our reading today is More Loving in My Heart by Howard Thurman. I want to be more loving. Often there are good and sufficient reasons for exercising what seems a clear, direct resentment. Again and again, I find it hard to hold in check the sharp retort, the biting comeback when it seems that someone has done violence to my self-respect and decent regard. How natural it seems to give as good as I get, to take nothing lying down, to announce to all and sundry in 1,000 ways that no one can run over me and get away with it. All this is part of the thicket in which my heart gets caught again and again. Deep within me, I want to be more loving, to glow with a warmth that will take the chill off the room, which I share with those whose lives touch mine in the traffic of my comings and goings. I want to be more loving. I want to be more loving in my heart. It is often easy to have the idea in mind, the plan to be more loving, to see it with my mind and give assent to the thought of being loving. This is crystal clear. But I want to be more loving in my heart. I must feel loving. I must ease tension in my heart that ejects the sharp barb, the stinging word. I want to be more loving in my heart, that with unconscious awareness and deliberate intent, I shall be a kind, a gracious human being. Thus, those who walk the way with me may find it easier to love, to be gracious because of the love of God, which is increasingly expressed in my living. Please stand and join in hymn number 85, Although This Life is but a Wraith.
Just a quick thanks to Sonia, who showed me how to use this thing this morning. In the Friday flyer this week, I mentioned that in Buddhism, 4 kinds of true love: loving kindness or benevolence, compassion, joy, equanimity, or freedom. I will also point out that other cultures and other traditions have way more names for love than we do. Today I'm going to use that lens of 4 types of love that Thich Nhat Hanh talks about in his work, True Love. Or maybe it is better stated that I'm going to use these types of love to explore our message of when love gets tough. When love gets tough for each of us, Pema Chodron, an American Buddhist teacher, says, we must start with ourselves. In cultivating loving kindness, we train first to be honest, loving, compassionate towards ourselves. Rather than wallowing in self-pity or self-flagellation, preparing ourselves to love means loving ourselves first. No matter how we feel, we can aspire to happiness, wholeness, contentedness for what is. When we practice loving kindness, practice it even when we don't feel it, we begin to rewire our brains to behave that way. We begin to learn the path to loving kindness. We come to understand loving kindness and what causes it and how to remain on the path. Not always perfectly, but as we practice it towards ourselves, it teaches us how to cultivate it towards other people. We can transform the grace that we have extended to ourselves onto the world. Kindness towards ourselves is kindness towards all of ourself, even the challenging parts, and we have those. I read recently that ignorance is not just lacking knowledge about something. It could or should be thought of as ignoring a truth that is presented to us, ignoring something. We need to truly know ourselves to be able to recognize both the gifts and the challenges in our hearts and souls. Once we know, we can then begin a path of extending that to loving others. Pema Chodron again writes, we can extend loving kindness towards ourselves when we feel like a loser. We learn how to extend the same unconditional friendliness to others. So it starts by looking at all of our parts, even the difficult parts. And we don't live in vacuums, except for Jane and Anne. I told you I was going to invoke your name. So much of who we are, we learn about by seeing our reflection in other eyes. Some of us, in fact, define ourselves mostly by what others see in us, which is very challenging to one's core center. When you let others tell you your worth, some of us have the great good fortune of being surrounded by people who mirror back lovely things, loving kindness, grace, love, and light. But many of us don't. And thus they become pigeonholed in an existence void of self-love. Many don't, but we'll get back to that in a moment. Cultivating self-love requires self-awareness. Surrounding ourselves with people and experiences that are always positive impedes that. With constant affirmation, we don't get the chance to learn from things that offer the opportunity for reflection and response, the things that really challenge us and our opinion of ourselves. One of my favorite Buddhist parables is that of a renowned teacher living in a spiritual community that had a very difficult occupant. That man was bad-tempered and rude. Nobody could stand him because he was always throwing tantrums and picking fights. He constantly complained, so people tiptoed around him so as to not cause him to explode. The teacher was always making his students do mundane, seemingly meaningless tasks, and one day he had 40 students cutting the lawn with little scissors and moving the pieces to other parts of the lawn. The difficult man couldn't take this assignment, and he blew up and left, and the other students were overjoyed that the miserable man had left the compound. But the teacher became frantic, and he left to find him. And after 3 days, to all of the students' chagrin, the teacher returned with the miserable man. And when asked why he brought the man back, the teacher remarked that he paid the man to be there, to be his constant teacher of how to live in loving kindness, to be the constant teacher of what was wrong inside of the teacher. Those who challenge us, those who make us angry, they are our constant teachers, and they are to be extended loving kindness. Others will show you exactly where you are stuck, says Pema Chodron. They say or do something that hooks us in a familiar way, and we shut down, or we speed up, or we get really worked up. When we react in these ways, our body tells us, right? It feels like a gut punch, or it catches our breath, or we lash out. The tough person has given us an opportunity to recognize our visceral reaction to something without being provoked. We might never know. We might remain ignorant of painful habits and thoughts that we have about other people. We may never have the chance of self-transformation if we're surrounded by people who reflect shiny things back to us. So this is one of the benefits of being in different communities. We have talked in the past about wanting to be in communities of people who are not like-minded in order to see if our spirituality is BS. We've talked about that here. That can be hardish when you are in the UU community. We are officially a liberal religion, meaning we all don't agree on what spirituality means or our own faith path to God, whatever that means. We accept one another and encourage each other in our respective spiritual growth. That's a principle here. And so the principle invites us to accept that even when we are not our best selves in this community, when we're not our best selves in this community, we pledge to do a couple of things. First, to recognize that we are all on our own journey and doing our very best in this moment. Despite how it might look, difficult people and difficult situations is the perfect mirror for self-reflection. As individuals and as a community, and we welcome prickliness for that reason, right? To test our individual spirits and push on the growing edges of the community. The edges are where the creative energy really is. It is where the community is growing. It is messy. It is real. It is also a reflection of how we engage our principles. Loving kindness and benevolence towards ourselves and towards others, especially when it feels hard to love. Compassion, the second type of love that we spoke about is compassion, which literally means to suffer together. It is defined as the feeling, as Grandmother Google told me, that arises when you are confronted with another's suffering and feel motivated to relieve that suffering. Loving kindness is an offering of yourself to another. I perceive that compassion is a response of joining with that person in their suffering, not letting them remain alone as they suffer. Inherent in this recognition of the kinship between humans and all living things and the world itself. Compassion is that kinship. The interdependent web of all existence for which we are a part. Sound familiar? Love in its form of compassion is written directly into our principles. Look at it in our hymnal if you don't remember those. In fact, Standing with the Side of Love is a public advocacy campaign that seeks to harness love's power to stop oppression. This campaign is part of the UUA's response in compassion to the very causes of suffering in our midst. It is a campaign that stands for and with voter access, climate justice, Black Lives Matter. Compassion is at the root of the 8th principle that's being contemplated as we speak. The principle, which may not be worded perfectly or may not be clear as it could be, but from its very conception speaks to journeying with the oppressed in order to let the oppressed change the world. The 8th principle isn't a reflection on us as individuals. It doesn't say that I personally am a racist. But it talks about our systems, and the UUA talks about them as being built. Our systems of governance, of governing even this church, are built on oppression, patriarchy, and the subjugation of others. So we are a part of this. It is our call to challenge ourselves, to look at these systems and ask really tough questions, to do some self-examination, to live in the messy margin of growth in order that we keep birthing what is possible in the name of love and justice. We could and should look at ourselves with a critical eye, but the eighth principle really asks us to stand in the place that we are and look around and look at who lived here first, who built what we have now, what power structures existed, and how were they exercised in order to create this place. How do they still influence us? Who can't vote because voting happens on Tuesdays and their work doesn't allow them a day off, and voting places don't have public transportation? Who can't vote? Who can't shape our society because of their job? Even in Maine, or perhaps especially in Maine, who's picking our crops? How are they living? Can they afford housing? Do they have access to health care and safe living arrangements? What happens when one person in a household of 12 gets COVID? When I did my clinical chaplain hours at the NICU, Neonatal Intensive Care Unit at Maine Med, several years ago, I learned that the majority of infants in the NICU are born addicted. Makes sense when you read the papers and learn about the amount of overdoses in our midst. And those infants born addicted and instantly plunged into withdrawal, screaming continuously for at least a week as they go through withdrawal. They are wired from the moment they were conceived, and their traumatic development inside a woman who's addicted and born into a world of withdrawal. What life can we expect for them, addicted and in cycles of poverty and abuse? That's what the eighth principle is about. The criminal justice system, specifically the correctional system, was conceived of and constructed around chasing and retrieving slaves. Our correctional system today, it is now a for-profit system that houses mostly addicts, that succeeds by keeping criminals in cells and turns them into profitable head counts, people who offend as a result of addiction, and we give them very few paths to recovery, to healthy lives. Where's our compassion there? There are very few jobs for felons, so even if they make it through the correctional system, they're turned out to have no job and no place to live, resulting in them going back into the fields that got them incarcerated to begin with. These are eight principle conversations. All of these examples of structural racism and classism, these systems are poisoning us. The eighth principle invites us to talk about these, to engage with these conversations, to determine for ourselves and our faith communities how we will stand with compassion on the side of love. Knowing why and how our systems that are constructed today are failing and what keeps them going now. A third measure of love is joy. So I'm sorry to lead off with the tough stuff and then go to joy. Unabashed, unencumbered, sometimes unfiltered joy, that's a really important part of love. Grandparent joy, finding $20 in your pants pocket joy. A new love joy. And also a Monday morning meeting with friends, really strong coffee, hearing the organ, listening to the choir, those moments of joy and community. Joy that feeds us, nourishes us, strengthens us. This love that is joy can never be minimized. It helps us remember the why when times are tough and love gets tough. And there is the love that is, let me try this word, equanimous. That is the love of freedom. The love, as the saying goes, that if you let it go, it comes back to you. A love that doesn't restrict or control, a love that bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Sound familiar? That love, perhaps, is where we are truly girded in tough love. We are to foster loving kindness to ourselves, to stand with others in compassion, to cultivate and experience joy, and when life is hard, when it's challenging, we are to love fiercely, in equanimity with an eye on liberation, liberating love, a letting go kind of love, which is also a hopeful kind of love, and enduring love even in the face of angry, messy things and with angry, messy people, with humans being humans as we all are. On Friday, it was proclaimed by the Iowa National Socialist Party as the National Day of Hate. Through social media from that group and other groups, extremists urged others to harass and direct violence at Jewish communities on the Sabbath this past Friday. How any human could invest mental energy cultivating hate is incomprehensible to me. When our lives and every breath we take is such a gift, how could anyone side with violence, harassment, evil, and death? And yet there it is. Here it is. Where is love in the midst of this? It took me a while to be able to circle back to love as I read the newspaper. But again, first we start with loving kindness towards ourselves. All the hate that is out there in others exists in us. We are capable of hate and violence because we hate the people who are doing these hateful things. A first step towards standing on the side of peace and love is recognizing that we are that also. We are capable of great things, and we are gifts of creation, and we are lovable, and we have gifts to share, as does everyone, even the haters. And next, we stand with compassion for those communities on high alert who feel threatened and scared because of the hate that is being directed at them. There is no joy or hatred such as this, and I was moved to reach out to Cantor Beth at a time in Biddeford, and she says they're girded by the love of this community that surrounds them because everybody's been reaching out. Things that would not have been on my radar to call her up and see if she is okay are suddenly on my radar, and I'm reminded that the community here lives in love. And this is again a reminder that we too own the 8th principle, hate directed at a religious group in our midst. That's part of the 8th principle. The work of anti-oppression will never be completed, and we are not even close now. Social media reminds us of that because this is a wake-up call to be vigilant, because I'm 100% certain that there are groups in Maine, probably in Saco and Biddeford, that are a part of all of this hate. The love that is freedom and equanimity is found in our response to our brothers and sisters on both sides. Martin Luther King Jr. offers in one of his most beautiful articulations, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can. I'm one of you now. I joined a couple weeks ago. I'm one of yous. Love saying that. I want to stand on the side of love at all times, for ourselves, for each other, and for the world. I would like to say it is easy to love ourselves, but we all know that it's not. But if we cultivate practices that are loving, we will become loving ourselves. We will become joyful in this place. There is freedom in our principles built right in. When the love gets tough, we dig in. We love harder and fiercer. We love the harmed, and we love the harmers. Because darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can. And hate cannot drive out hate. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can. Even when especially the loving gets tough. And may it be so.
This is a time in our service when we invite people to share what is in their, it's not that time. We already did that. It's a different time. When we gather together as a community, we bring the gifts of ourselves, our hearts and spirits, our time and our energy, our talents and skills to support the work of this church here within our walls and out in the larger community. We also bring our gift of generosity, giving of what we have so that the work of this church may continue. As always, half of our offering today will be sent out into the larger community to support the work of an agency or organization that is making a difference in our world. This month we are sharing our offering with the Maine Association of New Americans. If you are watching from home on YouTube, donations may be made by clicking the PayPal link in the video description, or checks may be mailed to the UUCSB, 60 School Street, Saco, Maine. Please be generous as the ushers collect this morning's offering. Please remain standing as we extinguish the chalice. The words are in your order of service. As we release this flame from its faithful service today,
we allow the spark in each of us to burn on, to warm our compassion, to fire our delight, to light our paths, today, tomorrow, and always.
Please remain standing and join us in singing hymn number 18, What Wondrous Love.
Thank
May the love that overcomes all, that heals all wounds, that puts to flight all fears, that reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us, now and always. Amen.
Resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and softly song, to sing awake the stars, ever dancing serenade the stars, ever may your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and sounding with the song, to sing awake the stars, ever dancing serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night, ever dancing circles in the night.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so glad you came. Please remain seated while Paul plays our postlude.
I'll get you the clip. Thank you. I'll stop by to get them. I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Anyway, just brought me back. I'm from back.
Ryan's music was on the airport wall.
I have an old Hammond organ, or I did. I should say my son did. Yeah, that was handed